Squid Game Season 1 shocked the world, but what you saw on Netflix was nothing compared to what happened behind the cameras. The games were dangerous, the emotions were real, and some scenes pushed actors to their breaking point. These are the 15 hidden facts that reveal how brutal, risky, and unbelievably intense the making of Squid Game truly was. 1. The creator spent over a decade trying to get it made. Squid Game began in 2008 when creator Hwang Dong-hak wrote the first draft, but every Korean studio rejected it for being too violent and strange. Broke and discouraged, he even sold his laptop while rewriting and eventually paused the project for years. Everything changed when Netflix entered Korea looking for bold stories and rediscovered his script. After more than a decade of struggle, Squid Game was finally approved and went on to become one of the biggest streaming hits in history. And while the long struggle to get it approved sounds unbelievable, the personal inspiration behind the characters is even more surprising. 2. Many characters reflect the creator's real life. Most viewers don't realize that several characters were shaped directly from Hwang Dong-hyuk's experiences. Gi-hun's debt problems came from the director's own financial struggles. Sae Bayok was inspired by people he met while researching North Korean defector communities. Even Ali's storyline came from Hwang's encounters with migrant workers facing unfair treatment. Instead of designing the cast like typical fictional characters, he built them from real people he knew, blending truth with drama until the mix felt raw and close to reality. Hwang even admitted that nearly every game reflects something from his childhood, from the schoolyard competitions he used to play, to the community playgrounds that shaped his early life. And while these personal details shaped the characters, the conditions under which Season 1 was filmed were even more extreme. 3. Season 1 was filmed. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Squid Game's production took place during a strict phase of the pandemic, and nearly everything had to be shot under intense safety rules. Cast members acted through long days of mask wearing, temperature checks, and constant sanitizing. The crew worked in controlled clusters, and actors had to isolate whenever cases appeared near filming zones. The pressure was huge because even a single positive test could shut the entire show down for weeks, risking millions of dollars. Many emotionally heavy scenes were filmed with smaller crews and minimal contact to reduce exposure. Actors said the isolation helped them channel the story's hopelessness, but it also made the shoot more exhausting than expected. And if the pandemic made production intense, the set design took the experience into an even stranger direction. Number 4. The set was designed to feel like a fantasy in a prison. The bright colors, candy-like staircases, and childish shapes were not random. Production designers intentionally built the set to feel like a mix between a dream world and a trap. Every color was chosen to feel safe at first glance, but unsettling once the games began. The curved hallways, Escher-like stairs, and pastel playgrounds were built full-scale rather than relying on green screens. This allowed actors to feel physically lost and overwhelmed, just like their characters. Even the dormitory was designed like a human warehouse, with beds stacked high like storage shelves. And although these surreal sets look harmless, the physical structures used for the games created even bigger shocks behind the scenes. 5. The glass stepping stones was built only 1.5 meters off the ground. Fans imagine the glass bridge towering high above the ground, but the real set was only around 1.5 meters tall for safety. Even so, it wasn't entirely risk-free. The platforms were narrow and slick under studio lights, so actors had to move cautiously to avoid slipping. To make performances believable, stunt coordinators told actors to lean forward, widen their stance, and react as if the fall would be deadly. Plexiglass pieces were rigged to break with timed pressure, creating the iconic shattering effect. Even though the height was small, the fear became real because the jumps were unpredictable during takes. And if the glass bridge was tense, the next challenge was even more dangerous than it looked. 6. The tug-of-war platform was actually 10 meters high. Unlike the controlled setup of the glass bridge, the tug-of-war platform was placed dramatically higher. Actors stood on a platform suspended nearly 10 meters above the ground, supported by harnesses and safety cables. The danger came from the sudden pull movements, which made the platform rock violently as teams fought for balance. The intensity came from the combination of physical strain and height. Actors leaned back with full force while the opposing team pulled so hard that crew members had to stabilize the platform between takes. Safety nets surrounded the lower level, but the feeling of standing high above the ground while battling another group made the fear absolutely real. And although this height was intimidating, the game that looked the simplest ended up being the most disturbing of all. 7. Red Light, Green Light's giant robot. Was part human, part machine. The iconic robot in the first game wasn't fully mechanical. Inside the set, a hidden human operator controlled parts of its head movement while technical equipment handled the scanning motion. The laser-like detection lights were added digitally, but the majority of the robot's turning motion was done live during filming. The most surprising part is that the robot was based on a real Korean school character known as Young-hee, which made the design even more unsettling for local viewers. With the combination of animatronics, puppetry, and human control, the robot created a chilling effect that felt too real during shoots. Some extras said the sudden head snaps were so sharp that they genuinely startled during takes. And the deeper you go into these behind-the-scenes secrets, the more Squid Game starts to look like the most shockingly real production Netflix has ever attempted. 8. The workers' masks were almost impossible to see. Through the iconic square, triangle, and circle masks looked clean and simple on screen, but actors playing the guards described them as extremely difficult to see through. The mesh covering the eye area created tunnel vision and made it nearly impossible to judge distance. Many guards bumped into walls, props, and even each other during rehearsals. Some scenes had to be reshot because masked actors missed cues or walked the wrong direction. The mesh also trapped heat, making breathing harder during long takes under studio lights. Several guards had to lift the mask every few minutes just to cool down and avoid dizziness. Despite these struggles, the restricted vision gave the characters an unintentionally robotic, synchronized aura that worked perfectly for the series' tone. If you're loving these hidden truths, hit subscribe now because the next reveal is even wilder than this one. And while the workers struggled with masks, the frontman's casting had an even more surprising twist behind it. 9. The frontman wasn't originally written for a global star. When production first began, the identity of the frontman was a blank space. The script left room for interpretation, and the character wasn't tied to a major name. But Netflix pushed for a recognizable face to boost global appeal and strengthen the connection to worldwide viewers. That decision brought in Lee Byung-hun, one of Korea's biggest actors and a major Hollywood presence. His inclusion added a dramatic layer because the audience instantly sensed something important about him, even before the big twist involving his brother was revealed. Interestingly, cast members said his presence on set changed the atmosphere. Scenes became sharper, more controlled, and more intimidating simply because of the aura he carried. And while adding a Hollywood-level star brought power, the real terror came from the conditions used during game scenes. 10. Some game scenes were so intense actors forgot the cameras. The production intentionally kept the environment unsettling to enhance the realism. During the red light, green light game, hundreds of actors stood in absolute silence under bright open sky lighting, surrounded by giant walls resembling a child's playground. To heighten tension, directors played sharp, sudden sounds through hidden speakers, creating real, startled responses. Actors said they sometimes forgot they were filming a show and felt genuine fear when the doll turned, or when other players fell dramatically around them. When the squib devices, blood burst packs, on eliminated players detonated, the shock was so loud that even actors who knew it was coming flinched uncontrollably. And while sound was used to scare players in the arena, a real medical emergency created a terrifying moment off camera. 11. A contestant was hospitalized after passing out during filming. During one of the mass crowd sequences, an extra fainted from exhaustion. The long hours, tight suits, and lack of airflow in the giant dormitory contributed to dizziness. When he collapsed, filming stopped, and medics rushed in immediately. Cast members said the atmosphere shifted instantly. Fiction became reality. The production team tightened safety rules, provided more breaks, and improved hydration access on set. Netflix later confirmed that no long-term injuries occurred, but the close call reminded everyone how physically demanding the show actually was. And while real medical scares were intense, the emotional toll of another moment hit even harder. 12. The Marble game made actors cry off screen. The Marble episode is widely considered the emotional core of Season 1. What fans don't know is that the tears in several scenes were completely real. Actors were encouraged to spend time together before shooting the episode to form real bonds. When filming began, the director allowed long, unbroken takes so natural emotion could unfold. Some cast members, including the actors playing Gi-hun and Il-nam, admitted they cried between takes because the story was too heartbreaking. The actors playing Sae-byuk and Ji-young also struggled to stay composed after filming their final goodbye scene. The crew described the atmosphere as unusually quiet that entire day, and if pure emotion broke the cast, the next challenge pushed them into extreme physical exhaustion. 13. The dormitory was kept uncomfortably hot on purpose. The giant dormitory room where all players slept was intentionally designed to feel oppressive. To make the actors look tired, sweaty, and irritated, the crew kept the room warmer than usual. The high-stacked beds trapped heat, and the hard lights raised the temperature even more. As shooting days got longer, exhaustion became visible on actors' faces, and that natural look helped sell the story. Several cast members said the heat made them half-mad, which unknowingly boosted their performances by mimicking real tension inside the game. And if the heat wore them down slowly, the next scene introduced immediate, terrifying danger. 14. The honeycomb game used real hardened dalgona. The honeycomb candy challenge was not a prop. The candy was completely real. The production hired a real dalgona maker who prepared hundreds of identical shapes every morning. The candy hardened quickly, cracked easily, and became sticky under warm studio lights. Actors had to actually carve the candy without breaking it. If it cracked, they had to reset and redo the entire take. Some actors admitted the anxiety was so real that their hands shook just like in the episode. Even more surprising, the dalgona maker became a small celebrity after the show aired because fans recognized his signature technique. And although carving real candy was stressful, the final fact brought the heaviest emotional weight of all. 15. The ending scene was revised 3 times for maximum impact. The original ending had Gi-hun leaving Korea immediately to find his daughter. Another version had him confronting the VIPs directly. But director Hwang wanted something more haunting, something that showed the psychological damage of everything Gi-hun experienced. The final version, where Gi-hun turns around at the airport, was rewritten just weeks before release. Hwang said he wanted to show that trauma changes people permanently and that Gi-hun could not simply return to normal life. That single turn became one of the most discussed final shots of any streaming series, setting the tone for Season 2. And once you know these behind-the-scenes secrets, Squid Game becomes even darker, deeper, and more shocking than it appeared on screen.